it is strange how other people's words can have an effect on our lives. I mean, obviously, we all take in opinions in different ways, but I do think they have some sort of play in how we are shaped as people. And to be honest, for me, and I have stated this before, I do feel like it is very easy to become brainwashed and influenced in modern society. You open up your phone and you see hundreds and thousands of things regarding school, health, politics, etc., and these things question, what is the right thing to do? What is correct? And of course, that is supposed to come from you. You shouldn't have your opinions controlled by what you see online. But the thing is, the usage of the internet, and whatever you see online on a consistent basis has a compounding effect on your character. It's like a graph that has a constantly changing slope. And it's like when you hear things on a consistent basis, even though you don't necessarily agree with that idea, it's always in the back of your head. It's always lingering around. And for myself, it does feel like something in my brain just goes off. I'm gonna give you an example. For example, there could be hundreds of videos saying basketball is a trash sport. It's a bad sport. And honestly, I don't think any of us agree with that idea. I think it's a decent sport. It's good. It's really fun to watch. But once you start seeing hundreds and thousands of those videos popping up in your feed, eventually it'll make you start to question your own opinion. You might bring down basketball down a couple notches in terms of how much you like it because of what you see online, of what is going on around you, and maybe how often it's being accepted as as a actually good sport. And maybe you don't feel like that. Maybe you don't get easily influenced, but I do think that action happens quite a lot within society where the general narrative is being changed, and what is deemed to be incorrect is slowly starting to become accepted. And I feel like this concept happens a lot with parents. Parental influence has to be something that a lot of people face in their lives. And for me, my parents would want me to do certain things to be deemed as good. This could be becoming a doctor or lawyer, something that they really want to see me as. And of course, you won't necessarily want to become those things. And sometimes there are people who purely do those things just to please their parents, just to make them happy. And you would say, our parents obviously struggle a lot in our lives, in their lives, to give us a life that they never had, and it is reasonable that they want to see you succeed in the occupations that they always wanted to have. And I do think not only for jobs, but how you see the world at a young age can be influenced by what your parents say, because they start forming their own opinions from what their parents used to say. And I do think it happens quite a lot because your brain isn't fully developed yet to make your own decisions. And you're young. You might just do things because your parents are telling you to do them over and over again. And you start thinking that that is the norm. What they say is the norm. What they say is normal and 100% correct. And I've definitely moved on from this phase, but I do have friends that are still stuck in it. They have lost the idea of what happiness is, even though they aren't being forced. They are facing the emotion of guilt. And this happens for myself at times too, that we are guilty of that because they have always asked for something and we were never able to give it back. It feels like it's some sort of obligation. And that obligation sometimes just leads to miserable lives. It leads you to going for something you don't really care about, you don't like, but you just want to see your parents smile. Majority of the time, you might not be passionate. You don't really want it. But at the end of the day, our parents aren't the ones living our lives. It is us at the end of the day, and it's important to be able to shut out certain influences and set some sort of boundary. And, put your foot down and say, this is what I think. This is my opinion. And I don't care what anyone else says. And being able to overcome that is a really good way to step into intellectual freedom, financial freedom, just freedom in general. To be able to do what you think is right. But yeah, that's really all I got. I'll see you guys later.